You crack open a cold beer and take that first sip. The bubbles, the slight bitterness, that subtle alcoholic warmth, all of it exists because billions of microscopic organisms performed a very specific chemical trick thousands of years ago, and we've been recreating it ever since. Fermentation is essentially controlled spoilage. When you make beer, you're creating the perfect environment for yeast to thrive and, more importantly, to eat. Yeast is a single-celled fungus, and like all living things, it needs energy. It gets that energy by consuming sugar. Here's where the magic happens. Brewers start with malted barley, grain that's been soaked, allowed to sprout, then dried. This process converts the grain's starches into sugars. When you mix this malted grain with hot water, you create a sweet liquid called wort. Add yeast to that wort, and the feast begins. The yeast cells absorb those sugars and break them down through a process called glycolysis. Without oxygen present, and this is crucial, the yeast can't fully metabolize the sugar into carbon dioxide and water like aerobic organisms would. Instead, it takes a shortcut. The result? Ethanol and carbon dioxide. This is called anaerobic respiration, and it's hilariously inefficient from the yeast's perspective. It only produces a fraction of the energy that aerobic respiration would. But from our perspective, it's perfect. The ethanol gives us alcohol, and the carbon dioxide gives us carbonation. The specific strains of yeast matter enormously. Ale yeasts work best at warmer temperatures and float to the top during fermentation. Lager yeasts prefer cooler conditions and sink to the bottom. Each produces slightly different flavor compounds called esters and phenols, which is why a Belgian ale tastes nothing like a German Pilsner, even though the basic process is identical. Temperature, sugar concentration, yeast strain, oxygen levels, tweak any of these variables and you get a completely different beer. Humans didn't invent fermentation. We just learned to control it, creating thousands of distinct beverages from a single biochemical accident that yeast stumbled into millions of years ago.